Well, good evening. Tonight we have with us a wonderful person that I've come to know through the years who has been in the LGBT community for a number of years. Her name is Jan. Hi, Jan. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Thank you. Thank you for, coming in to talk to us and share with us in our efforts to try to educate the community, the LGBT community, and try to educate others out there in the world about what we're really like and that we're not so different from anyone else, especially when we consider that that we've been around a while and we just realize who we are in the Lord, if you will. And so I want you to share with us a little bit about your earlier years and how you realized that you were gay in your life. And if you can also tell us, and we're just going to use your first name on these on this interview, and if you can kind of give us an idea of your age, because it lets people know how long ago things were, and then even now that not so much has changed, or either, depending on what perspective we look at, then maybe a great deal has changed. So I welcome you to the conversation tonight. And can you kind of share with us your early years and your ups and downs in the gay life?
Yes. My name is Janice, and I knew that I was gay when I was 10 years old. I knew that I didn't have any feelings or anything for men or boys at that particular time. As I gotten older, I ran into a guy that I actually liked, but just liked. And he wanted to get married. And I told him, no, I was not the marrying type. I didn't tell him anything about my life. I just told him I wasn't the marrying type. So he said, well, I really like you and I care a lot about you. And I said, well, I really don't want to hurt your feelings. I really don't. So he says, why not? And I says, well, I have something in my life that I'm not going to tell you. So he says, I already know. And he said, a friend, one of your girlfriends told me that you and her was going together. And I says, past tense, no, we were. But I did not like the relationship that we had. So I got out of the relationship. And I said, this is why you met me, because I am not with anyone, and I have no intention of getting married, because I truly didn't want to hurt his feelings. So at 10 years old, I knew I was gay.
May I ask you this? How did, when you say you knew when you were 10 years old, how does a 10-year-old know?
My feelings for girls. I had feelings for girls. I had no feelings for boys, just girls. And I was around girls more than I was around boys. So I knew right then and there that I was different. I didn't know. I can't hear you.
No, let's go on. I'm listening.
Okay.
You didn't know? Okay.
You're breaking up. I can't really hear you clearly.
Okay. So let's try again. Hold on 1 minute. Mm-hmm. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. But 10
okay,
years old,
let's start all over again. No, let's start all over again, okay? I'm just going to back it up and we'll start all over again. And maybe, well, thank you for joining us tonight. This is Ordinary People, Extraordinary Things. And I'm Dr. Selma Massey. And, of course, we have another wonderful person from the LGBT community who's coming to share their life and to put it out on the table so that we can all get a better understanding of what it's like to grow up as a lesbian or gay person in America. Tonight we have Jan with us. Hi, Jan. How are you?
How you doing, Dr. Massey?
I'm doing just fine. I know in our private conversation, we talked about that you knew when you were 10 years old that you were gay. Can we start with that? Because we kind of wonder, how can a person know that? And what year are we talking about, like 1960s or the 19 what? And share with us.
I would say between 1957. I was 10 years old when I knew I had desires and feelings for girls. And I had a young lady that I really liked a lot, but I never told her who I was. Because at 10 years old, she wouldn't understand what I was talking about. So I never talked to her about those feelings that I had.
And you just knew you didn't have those feelings for boys or young men. I know you mentioned at one point that someone did want to marry you later in life, and you turned them down.
Yes, later on in life, I did meet a guy that I liked a lot, just to be around for company, but nothing else. And so he was a very nice guy to me, extremely nice to me. And he came to me one day. He says, I really care about you a lot. He said, why don't we get together and maybe at that particular time date or something like that? I said, that's fine, but I'm not really interested in getting married. He said, oh, you'll be all right. We'll just bypass that. And so he says, so why don't we just get together, go to the movie, do things and stuff like that? I said, that's fine. So he said, I really want to get married. I think you are the one. I says, no, I'm not. I'm not the marrying type. I do not want to get married. And he says, well, why not? I heard you had a girlfriend. And he said that your girlfriend told me that you and her had an affair. I says, no, we never did. I said, she liked me, I liked her, but that was it. And he says, well, why don't we just bypass that and just get married? I said, no, because I wouldn't feel comfortable with marrying you because you would never forget that. If I had a lady that came over to my house, you would always accuse me of doing something that I did not do. So I would not be comfortable because I would want to hurt your feelings.
Yes. Now, so you were trying to protect him by saying no in a gentle way. Now, let me ask you this. What about your parents? How did they feel about you being a lesbian? Was there any discussion about it, or what religion were you in? Was there any kind of reason to not accept you because of your religion or your parents?
The pastor in my house, gay was not ever discussed in my house. Never. My mother's never said anything about gay people, lesbian, or anything like that. So it was never discussed in my house. My mother knew, but she never said anything about it to me. And I never mentioned anything to her. Now, my mother was a Jehovah's Witness. I was about 12 years old. We were studying Jehovah's Witness at that particular time. And it was talking about the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, but how it was being destroyed because it was gay people that was destroyed. And I looked and I said, oh, my God, I know that I'm gay. And if they find out, I might be destroyed like that. And I said, well, I'm just going to continue to keep on studying because I want to know more about Jesus. And that's as far as it ever went in my house. It was never discussed about gay people. So I did not feel free talking to my mother about that.
Yes. Now, as you got, I was going to say, as you.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, as you went on in life, you did meet certain women, and you did get in relationships. What was that like? Was that difficult, since you had this in your mind that maybe you didn't want to be destroyed for being a lesbian, but how were you able to operate or be out in the world and being so conflicted, having these feelings on the inside and being true to yourself?
Well, I met a young lady with LGBTQ. I met her and I talked to her about it. And she says, well, I've been watching you a lot. And she said, I'm the one been writing you the letters. Didn't you know? I says, no. I said, but this young man told me that you was writing letters to me every day. And he said, don't be surprised if someone don't come down and deliver the letter to you to let you know that they like you. And I was working in a hospital at that particular time. It was the Marine Hospital out on Alta Road off of Jefferson. And that's where I met her at. So that particular time, I did get a letter, and she said, could I meet you for lunch? And I said, yes. So at lunchtime, I went out, I looked around, and she came towards me. She said, I'm the one been writing you those letters. And I said, why? She said, because I really like you. You're quiet, you stay to yourself, and you're just a person that be alone most of the time. And she said, so this is why I like you. So can we walk down? So we walked down out to Alta Road. We walked down to the cafeteria, and we went and we had lunch. And she talked to me, and she said, would you like to meet me after work? I says, no, not really, not really. And she says, why not? You're scared? I says, no, I'm not scared of anything. But I know that you're not the one for me, because I know she was busy. And she says, well, that might change if you decide to just come over to my house and sit there and talk to me. And I said, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. So I left and I went home. Well, the next day when I went to work, I got more letters from her. She was determined, no matter what, she was determined. And so on Wednesday we would go bowling. Of course, she went bowling too, and she talked to me. She said, you must have liked one of these guys. I said, no, I'm not into guys. I'm only into girls. I'm not into guys. She said, well, just give me an opportunity. I said, no, you have too much baggage. I see that. So I don't want to get involved like that.
May I ask you a question, Jan? And we're talking about the LGBT community. Yeah. I'm wondering, sometimes people think that because we're women, that any woman that comes along, that we would want them. How did you? I'm hearing now that you didn't just take anyone that came in front of you, or you weren't trying to choose any woman that came by, So how do you avoid that stereotype that you just like any woman? You'll take any woman because you happen to be a lesbian.
Well, first of all, I had respect for myself, and I just didn't want any woman. Because some women that you get involved with don't care. They're just out there. And I did not want to be exposed. Yes, I didn't want to be exposed like that. Because I had brothers and sisters. And I didn't want them to know my life. So that's why I did not leave the book open in that perspective. So that's why I didn't just take any woman. And as time go by, as I gotten older, I did run into a woman that I liked a lot. She was just a lady, period. And I liked that about her. So we managed to get together and just to share certain things together, because I didn't have to worry about her being disrespect and just telling everybody about our lives. So I kept that on the down low.
And so you led your life, like they used to call it, in the closet. because of what stereotypes and it wasn't so easy being gay in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, and even the 80s, because there were a lot of hatred, especially from religious groups and such.
Yes.
So would you talk about that a little bit for us?
Well, not only just the religion part of it, I just didn't want to be exposed in that perspective, because like I said, my house, gay, lesbian, or any of that was not discussed in my house. My mother never discussed that with us.
Well, may I ask you this? Let me ask you this. Did you think that something was wrong with you because you felt that way? Did you ever go through those kinds of feelings early on?
No, I never thought there was anything wrong with me. I knew I was different, but I never thought that anything was wrong with me. No, I accepted who I was. I accepted who I was. I was not ashamed who I was. But I didn't want to go, and back in 70, 60, 70, I didn't want to go expose myself to everyone. But I was never ashamed, no.
Mm-hmm. So you quietly lived your life in privacy instead of being out there in many of the places that are traditionally considered gay places, like the bars and the nightclubs and things like that. You didn't frequent those kinds of places.
I did go out. To bars. I went to cabarets, parties, and everything. Yes, I did. But as I was sitting there, someone might come over and ask me, did I want to dance? I might get up and dance and everything, but I already had made up my mind when I left, I was not taking them with me. I wasn't going to go through that.
So you were very cautious. Go on. I'm sorry. Yes.
At that particular time, I respect myself and I respected the woman as well. You see, some people are so open. Some people are just open and don't care. But I have a great amount of pride about myself, even today. But I'm not ashamed. I'm not ashamed. And the more I learn about Jesus, I have no guilt or no shame of anything. Because I know he already has it sent with me.
Yes. If there are young people out there, or it may not even be young people, it might be just anyone out there listening, what would you say to them if they were feeling some kind of shame, or if they were feeling like maybe something's wrong with them? What would you say to them? How would you speak to their hearts right now?
I would tell them there's nothing to be ashamed of. God created you. He knew who you were before you came out the mother's womb. And we're all one. We're no different than the other. We just have different feelings, but we're no different than the other person. So there's no reason to be ashamed.
So where are you in your life now in terms of your sexuality?
If they feel that way, it's fine. Nothing is easy. Being straight is not easy. Being gay is not easy. So I'm not ashamed at all. I know God has accepted me.
Yes. What about if there's a parent out there listening and they have a child that identifies as LGBT? What would you say to that parent tonight or today?
I would tell that parents, don't be ashamed. If your child come to you and tell you that they're LGBTQ, don't be ashamed. Talk to them and try to help them to better understand themselves. And just give them all the love that you can give them. And they would cut down the lots of suicide because the parents, the mom and the father, pushed them to a side. Never do that to your child. And we shouldn't judge. We shouldn't judge. You should be open with your child and love your child. Because as time goes by, it's going to be more and more of us all over the world. All over the world. Right now as we speak, there's one being born. And it is your child. So love that child. And that will cut down suicide a lot.
And how did you come to terms with just finally, just saying, listen, this is who I am, and I'm older now, and I'm going to live my life the way that I feel in my heart? How did you find peace with that and in your religion? What happened? Because you said you were Jehovah's Witness. What happened?
I found peace with that when I know I can talk to God about anything, because he already knows me. And I can go to him and talk to him about anything. So I'm not afraid. I know how to carry myself, to be respectful. And I know one thing, I'm never alone. Because I can talk to them anytime. So I'm comfortable with who I am. I have accepted that when I was 10 years old. So there's nothing to be ashamed of.
And that would be your message to other listeners out there. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Stand in your own truth. Yes, and live your life.
Yes.
And God loves you. Because many gay people have heard that God does not love us and that he doesn't care for us, but you've discovered something different. And I think that message needs to get out to people. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, I do. And I think with the situation, some people that are gay should learn more about themselves, learn more about God. If he accepted you and created you, there's no reason to be ashamed.
I remember the old days of walking in a church and then immediately the message would change. Did that ever happen to you? Have you had those kinds of experiences in some of those churches in your discovery of God?
Yes, I did. Me and my partner went to a church that we really liked the pastor. He was an excellent minister. So one Sunday we were sitting there in the church, and he was talking about gay people. He said, I don't understand. They come in my church, sit here. If anybody wants to come to me and explain to me why women wear men's clothes and men's shoes after service, I want them to come into my office. I looked at my partner. I said, you know what? He has not accepted us. I said, it's time to go. She said, what do you mean? I said, it's time to go. So after service was over, we stood out there in the lot and we talked. I said, I heard about this church called Whosoever, Dr.Selma Massey. And I said, I think we need to go to that church. Because not only she accepted gay people, she's teaching about God. She's teaching about God. And she's not judging. She's not judging us. She accepts us for who we are. And so we went. And it's right there on Woodward and Edmond. That's the first time we went there at the church. And we went there that particular day, that particular Sunday. I said, honey, this is where we're going to be. Because we feel comfortable. Because everybody was like us.
Yes. Now let me ask you one last question. Jan, what would you say to your 10-year-old self back then today, if your 10-year-old self was standing in front of you with those feelings, what would you say to your 10-year-old self before we close tonight?
I would say to myself at 10 years old, you made the right decision, my dear. Just love you. Just love on you. You made the right decision. That's what I would say to myself, because there's nothing to be ashamed of. Not anything else.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Thank you for coming in and having the courage to come in and talk to us. And I believe that what you've said is going to speak to the hearts and the minds of listeners out there. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you and that your living is not in vain, because there are others that will hear your story and they will be encouraged and they will not be ashamed. And I just want to thank you for bringing this wonderful message to the people. Thank you so much.